I am really honored to have Kayla Smith as my guest tonight. Kayla's decision to speak out and share her story is not only inspiring and brave, it is really important and it makes a difference. Now, I've always been a staunch supporter of abortion rights, going back to before I even first ran for the US Senate. And it's been always important to me to be loud and vocal about why abortion rights matter for women and families. Back then, abortion was not something anybody wanted to talk about. But to me, this decision has always been simple. Women have to be able to make their own decisions about their bodies, their lives, and their futures without interference from politicians. Republican politicians certainly do not know better than women or their doctors about the reproductive health care that they need. I have been raising the alarm about the danger of Republicans' anti-abortion agenda for years, long before Republicans were successful in their decades-long effort to rip away the protections of Roe. And Kayla knows the cruelty personally of Republicans' anti-abortion laws better than just about anybody. And as she will tell you, just days after Idaho's ban went into effect, she got a devastating diagnosis from her doctor. And because of Republicans' extreme, heartless policies, her doctors in Idaho were barred from giving her the care she needed. That is what Republican anti-abortion extremism is doing to women today. It is taking away their own decisions about their bodies, their families, and their futures. And it is turning challenging, difficult situations into living nightmares. I've met with reproductive health care providers across Washington state, and ever since the Dobbs decision, they have been inundated with patients traveling for care from states where abortion is banned. There are so many women out there dealing with this or who will end up dealing with this, and the story never ends just with the patient. There's the doctors. The doctors in Washington state that I mentioned who are being overwhelmed, and Kayla's doctors from Idaho who couldn't treat her, not because they didn't know how to or because they didn't feel that it was medically necessary, but because politicians wouldn't let them. That is outrageous. There are so many doctors in states with abortion bans right now who are angry and they're heartbroken, who want to be able to treat their patients. Many of them are packing up and leaving states like Idaho that make it impossible for them to do their job, states that force them to watch their patients suffer, which means that even more patients have less access to maternal health care. The reality of the horrific consequences of Republicans' abortion bans are already nationwide. People in red states, people in blue states, people who never want kids, people who desperately want kids are all facing the fallout of this. And it could get worse. That's why I will never stop shining a light on these stories. Everyone in America needs to know what happened to Kayla, and they need to understand that if Republicans succeed in passing a national abortion ban, what happened to Kayla in Idaho could happen to women in any state, including ours here in Washington. So I'm not going to stop talking about abortion and making sure people are paying attention to the horror stories coming out of states where abortion is banned. And I will keep standing with women like Kayla, being a firewall against Republicans' continued attempts to pass anti-abortion policies through Congress, and most importantly, fighting to restore Roe so that every woman in our country once again has the right to make her own healthcare decision. So I'm delighted to have Kayla with me here today and at the State of the Union tonight. And Kayla, thank you for your brave, courageous decision to speak out. So Kayla, let me turn it over to you to share your story.
Thank you, Senator Murry. It's an honor to be here. My husband and I found out at our 18-week anatomy scan that our son had several fatal fetal anomalies. I didn't want an abortion. I needed an abortion. We didn't want our son to suffer, and the heart condition he had was inoperable. So we were forced to flee Idaho and go to the state of Washington to receive care. These laws are devastating women in Idaho specifically and all over. And so I just feel honored to be here to share a little bit of my story, and hopefully people realize how devastating it really truly is.
Kayla talked about what happened to her medically, but economically as well, huge impact to her family, to trying to get the cost, leaving her own support network behind in Idaho that she needed, a really challenging time in her life, having to come to Washington, the cost, the economic impact at a time when she was hurting the most. This is just outrageous, and that's why I feel so passionate.
It was, we had to take out a personal loan, and it's not like fallen on me that we know how privileged we are to be able to do that financially, because that is not reality for most women. And so while it was a huge financial burden for us, we did have several family members and friends that were able to support us. And so we're super thankful for that. But it shouldn't be something that we should have had to worry about during that time. And I know, sitting in that room when we found out the devastating news with my physician, her hands were tied. She couldn't do anything. And I knew she would do something if she could. So. Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think personally, like Senator Murray had stated, we had really no idea what we could do at the time. It was 2 days after Idaho's trigger law went into effect that we found out about our son's fatal fetal anomalies. So I think physicians had to pivot, and they were scared to say anything. They didn't know what they could say without, speaking to lawyers, and that's not their job. So yeah.
I find this just so heart-wrenching. You're at a time of your life where you are so vulnerable. You just found out that the baby you desperately wanted is not going to survive. And you're looking at the one person that has the medical advice that you need, and they can't talk to you without talking to their lawyers or making a personal decision that they don't want to impact their own capability of being a physician. How do you live with that? And we are seeing the consequences of that in Idaho and really in other states that have banned abortion as well. Well, healthcare providers, gynecologists, and women who provide broad medical care for women who are delivering babies every day are saying, I can't do this anymore. I can't do it personally, economically. I can't face this in my life. They are some moving to other states, some choosing not to go on with the profession that they chose. So yes, there's a huge chilling effect on physicians. If we're going to ask about chilling effect, I think we should talk about women as well, because how do you deal with this when your family, your friends are excited about you being pregnant? I can't imagine, Kayla, what you went through. And all of a sudden, you can't talk about what happened to you because the decision you are about to make may impact your friends if they know that's what you're going to do. And I don't know if that happened to you, Kayla, but I've certainly heard it from other women.
Yeah, I think for us, we felt, I mean, our opinion around abortion was, if you need it, like, you don't need to come and ask me. It's not my decision. It's a personal decision that you need to make. But it was just devastating because, like I said, this was a very wanted pregnancy for us. And I didn't necessarily want an abortion. I needed one. And personally, my own physician actually, who told us the news of our son and his fatal fetal anomalies, ended up leaving the state of Idaho to practice medicine somewhere else.
And with that physician leaving, that means fewer doctors in Idaho who are trying to deliver babies and to help women with maternal health care.
Truthfully, it's an honor. But what's going on with these bans really is insult to injury during a time that my husband and I were devastated. Again, like, I just want to reiterate, this was not something that we wanted to do. It was something we felt that we had to do, and our hands were tied, our physicians' hands were tied. And I just really think more people need to be aware of what's going on. Abortion is very nuanced, and so our situation is not, there are lots of other women who are going to be in this situation, especially with these bans now. And so, like I said, I was very privileged to be able to, have friends and family support us financially, and also the ability for us to take out a personal loan, but that is not reality for many women.
I expect President Biden to speak out forcefully about how our country is doing, what his priorities are for this Congress. And as always, I expect him to strongly support women and men in this country to make their own public health care choices.